What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down what's been coming out associated to the company, and what big money has been doing with SoundHound. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. So on Thursday, it did close 0.67% in the red, had a nice pop to around the 620 range as soon as the market did open. And that's been where SoundHound has been kind of gravitating towards over this last week. So you can tell it does fundamentally want to break out, and that was actually my last video, was about how the technicals behind the scenes were really kind of building up for a explosion. And unfortunately there hasn't been any other news since March the 25th, so this one right here, and that's actually I think the last day I did a video. But I am very pleased to announce that this is probably the very first week in a very long time, I think since I've actually started to cover SoundHound, that nobody sold. So I think round of applause to the insiders for not selling. So good stuff, guys. And if anything, big money decided this week to double down. So even though the technicals have been and are still pointing to it breaking out, there's been some level of consolidation and big money has been taking advantage of that. So I want to give you a quick overview of that. So these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market on Thursday, which was the last trading day, above $100,000. So a couple big ones: 2.95, 2.95, 2.95, and 2.95. So someone definitely, unless they hit the enter button one too many times or whatever else, someone is accumulating SoundHound. But beside the point, it gets better because you do see a couple more of those, a 17.4 million, and then first thing once the market did open, 1.6. So someone on Thursday was very desperate to buy SoundHound, and it wasn't shorts. So I'm going to talk about what shorts have been doing over this last little bit. So you finally have a week of insiders not selling. You have very much abnormal transactions coming from institutions. So that again, in among itself, is fairly good. And plus, aside from that, the technicals are looking still very optimistic. So I'm going to talk about all of that. And so when it comes down to shorts, obviously today is Friday, so Vortex kind of behind the scenes is thinking that it's a trading day, so it's not really showing anything. Yesterday though, meaning Thursday, shorts did end up returning increasing 1.5 million shares. So something to consider as far as that. Currently 16.67% of the free float is being shorted, 44.6 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization is 98.31, and short score, so the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening, is 77.8%. Just to give you a quick overview of this as well, through Interactive Brokers, short availability does indicate around 250,000 shares is available to be shorted. So as I've said time and time again, SoundHound is a very hybrid stock. So it has a squeeze aspect, has a momentum aspect, and a AI aspect. And interestingly enough, kind of talking on AI for a second, this last week, SoundHound did outperform NVIDIA itself. And normally there's always been a very good correlation between the two. Of course, SoundHound is more momentum behind the scenes as well. So kind of influx due to technicals and whatever, but SoundHound was flat over this last week and NVIDIA did close 4.05%. So I think that's kind of a good thing. But once again, going back to some of the data points, I do feel if institutions do continue this buying that they've been doing, then you could see a very good squeeze. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but in essence, you do need four different things. You need a high cost to borrow, you need a high utilization, a lot of shares being shorted, and as well, you need a surprise catalyst. So SoundHound has been somewhat lacking that, but with a momentum play, you can kind of offset that surprise catalyst just with a huge amount of capital getting in. So I think overall that could be coming down the pipeline fairly soon, because PCE did also come out today despite the market being closed, and it came out better than anticipated. So going into next week, you should see a nice pop up in the broader market and a lot of spec plays such as SoundHound. But going over some of the data points, $2.57 million in calls being purchased versus 1.62 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 56% of all the options being done on Thursday were optimistic and bullish, and of the call options that are being purchased, there's a consensus for it to be above $7 by the end of next week. week. And then looking at puts, there's a consensus for it to be, looks like sub $6. So in my opinion, the risk versus reward is very much there. So of course, that's kind of a good thing. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. And with it closing at 589, you do see some small amount of call options that are going to be exercised, meaning market makers are going to buy that on the open market, but nothing of substance. So the most is around 2,000 at the 550 strike price. If you guys don't know options, highly suggest in researching them. They can be very beneficial and profitable even outside of SoundHound. But quickly talking on the technicals though, so with it closing at $5.89, it is between these 2 points. So the pivot and this R1, this pivot has held like a goddamn champ. So $5.65 is going to be a point to watch for this upcoming week. And then vice versa, 805 will be that next strong resistance. And actually one thing that I did forget to bring up, so I will go over the technicals, but prior to that, there was a new analyst rating since my last video, and it was a $7 price target, a buy rating by Glenn, who does have a 51% success rating. So I think overall that is fairly good. I've never really heard of this firm right here, but again, most of these I haven't really. Northland, I haven't. HC Wainwright, I have heard of them. Usually they're one of those ones that they're paid essentially. So whenever I see those types of ratings, I don't really take it with a grain of salt, unfortunately. But Cantor Fitzgerald, D.A. Davidson, those are some pretty credible firms. I've, again, never really heard of Ladenburg Thalmann, if I'm saying that right. But whatever, I just wanted to bring this up. So I think that's kind of a good thing that a $7 price target, which does represent like a 20% upside from here, was given. But on the actual chart, let's talk on that for a second. So it has been consolidating over the last several trading days. And like I said, holding that 565 like a damn champ. So in essence, I do feel, especially early part of next week, it will attempt to transition from the lower to the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. Looking right here, you do see it as well, very oversold. So it is at 13. Despite that though, you do see somewhat of a bearish deviation. So red line above the white. But one interesting note that I just wanted to bring up is looking at the momentum indicator, shows number of retail investors, or I guess number of investors overall, have been getting out. So normally with a momentum play, you usually need that for the price to kind of stay at the levels they are. So you can kind of see just the price action versus this does not correlate. So big money over this last little bit has been accumulating and kind of holding up SoundHound. So I think retail has been, in all honesty, starting to give up with SoundHound. It's not as exciting as it once was, especially with these levels, but big money is very quiet and they are behind the scenes buying clearly, as you can kind of see right here, and even over the last several trading days as well. So I think SoundHound is building up for a very nice breakout, and bigger institutions do know that. But then again, what do I know, right? I'm not a financial advisor. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing? And one final thing, make sure you guys take advantage of this promo. There's only a couple days left. Simply sign up for an account with Moo for $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.